packed show for you today, starting with Tim Bontemps' off-season survey. Executives are split on who the best player in the league is, and we discuss. Russell Westbrook uses some choice language to clap back at people calling the Lakers a nursing home squad, and we break that down. And Bobby Marks is here. We'll delve into a round of money moves with Marks, and Cade Cunningham goes on the record for his GOAT pick. Keep it locked because The Jump starts right now. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Malika Andrews, and we will have Dave McMiniman and Nick Friedel joining me on set shortly. But first, let's get to our NBA insider, Tim Bontemps, who just today released his NBA offseason survey of executives and scouts throughout the league. Tim, welcome back.
Great to be here, Malika. Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
We're excited to get to chat with you a little bit. So who did those who participated in your survey feel made the best moves this offseason?
Well, the runaway winner for that, Malika, was the Miami Heat getting Kyle Lowry in that sign and trade to open free agency back on August 2nd. And it's easy to see why. You know, Kyle Lowry's a two-way player, a tough, gritty, hard-nosed guard, and really is the epitome of a Miami Heat player. And his relationship with Jimmy Butler was cited by executives as something that could really be beneficial for the Heat. He should be able to come in and seamlessly fit in with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy with the Heat. And also, along with them re-signing Duncan Robinson, one of the best shooters in the league, and bringing in another definitional Miami Heat player in PJ Tucker, another gritty, hard-nosed guy who should fit right in with the Heat culture. The Heat are looked at as a team that now is up on the same level as the Milwaukee Bucks and Brooklyn Nets at the top of the Eastern Conference, fighting to get back to the NBA Finals.
I'm certainly excited to see how that shakes out. They are a very intriguing squad. But let's dive in a little bit more. Which way were executives and scouts leaning in terms of a finals prediction? I know we're already talking about it.
Well, look, that's what everybody's been doing since the offseason began with Russell Westbrook going to the LA Lakers, right? And the two teams that came out on top, not surprisingly, are the Brooklyn Nets and those Los Angeles Lakers, with the star-studded, star-powered teams that are going to be meeting on Christmas Day across the street from where you guys are at Staples Center. And team executives around the league think that those teams are going to be the ones to come out of their conferences and make it to the NBA Finals. Now, the Nets are a team that everybody certainly expects to get there. Really, the only impediment to them getting to the finals, even winning a title from the eyes of executives, is their health. Are they going to be able to stay on the court like we saw in the playoffs where James Harden and Kyrie Irving both went out in that second round series against the Milwaukee Bucks with injuries? But what was more interesting to me was what happened in the Western Conference, where the discussion about the Lakers really centered around them sort of being the default selection in what is seen as a wide open Western Conference. The Golden State Warriors got a couple votes. The Utah Jazz, last year's number one seed, got a couple votes. You know, the Denver Nuggets also got a vote with people expecting Jamal Murray can get back. So, you know, the Lakers are kind of seen as, well, if we don't really know who to pick in a wide open conference, let's go with LeBron James and say that, you know, as we've seen over the last decade, that's a pretty good way to go. So I'm really curious to see what a wide open Western Conference looks like when we get started here in a couple months.
Well, and that's why we need to watch the games, right? That's where it gets really exciting, is where there is no necessarily clear favorite. But Tim, what response did you get when you were asked who the best player in the league was?
This was maybe the most interesting question to me in the whole survey, because generally, when a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo goes through the playoffs and leads his team to a championship, he's crowned as the best player in the NBA. And, you know, that's what happened a couple years ago when I did the survey when the Toronto Raptors won. Kawhi Leonard was given that honor. Everybody gave it back to LeBron James when the Lakers won last year. But with the way Kevin Durant played in that Milwaukee Bucks Brooklyn Nets series that you and I both covered, we were at that Game 7 when he was unbelievable, playing all 53 minutes, going into overtime, and then going out to Tokyo and leading Team USA to the gold medal, you know, really carrying a team that did not play very well at times around him, and he just sort of lifted them up to the level we're all used to seeing Team USA play at. That led to Kevin Durant getting just as many votes as Giannis Antetokounmpo in that survey. And with the Bucks and Nets looking like the two best teams in the league, maybe on a collision course to play again in the playoffs, that's probably going to be a conversation we see go on throughout the season, all the way until maybe next May or June when they meet again, potentially in an Eastern Conference Final showdown.
Absolutely. And this is fascinating stuff. I encourage everyone to go and check out the survey. The internet is buzzing about it, including some players. Thanks so much for joining us today, Tim. We will catch up again soon. So the survey, though, it was split between Giannis and KD as the best players in the game. I want to come back into studio now. Dave, put your GM cap on. Where do you stand on all of this?
Well, I'm always going to lean offense. It's just the type of basketball that speaks to me, and so I will
speak to you.
I'll give the edge to KD here, and it's the slightest of edges, of course. We're talking about the best player in the NBA, so both these guys belong in that conversation, but there's something that KD does on a basketball court that Giannis simply can't do, and that's make three-pointers. And there are many times in a game where that is required 15% from three in the playoffs. He won the championship, and he's a better defensive player than KD is, but I see that as a hole in his game still, so I give it to KD.
Well, and remember, in the playoffs, Giannis even said, don't compare me to KD. KD is a player in himself who's Giannis views as one of the greatest, if not the greatest. So he doesn't even want to get into that comparison. But according to Bontemps' survey, Nick, I do want to hear what you kind of think about all of this.
It's got to be KD. And the scariest part is, guys, KD is coming off a season where there was still a little bit of rust coming off the Achilles injury. Yeah. And the next season, for any player that goes through that type of rehab, is always better. So to see where he was in the playoffs, to see where he was in the Olympics, to see where he's going to be in that second year. And Dave, I know Giannis is a better defensive player now, but KD never gets the credit defensively that he deserves because he's so long, he's so athletic. 2 years post-op, I think he is going to be fantastic. And if he stays healthy, I think he's going to be the MVP.
Whew, he's going to be the MVP. Interesting.
That should have been a survey.
Yeah, Bontemps, are you still hearing that? That should be a survey question next year. But according to Tim Bontemps' survey, the Lakers and Nets, they're predicted to make the NBA Finals. So, Nick, I know it's August, but what's your way too early NBA Finals prediction?
If the Nets are healthy, the Nets are coming out of the East. Every year I sit up here, y'all, and I go, I think it's Utah's time. And every year they disappoint me. So what am I going to do right now after spending 5 minutes thinking about this before the show? I'm still going with Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz because I am convinced one of these years, all the success they have in the regular season can go all the way through the playoffs. I just don't believe that it can come together this quickly for a Lakers roster that is so old. I'm not there on the Warriors. I think it's going to take them at least a year of getting Clay back in the fold. And I never fully believed in the Suns, and they faded out there in the finals. So for the process of default for me, it's still Utah, and I absolutely know I'm going to be disappointed a year from right now.
Well, I'm impressed you did a whole 5 minutes of show prep.
Really you know how I roll, baby.
I think it's got to start with Nets and Lakers. Like, why wouldn't you? Because
you're picking the Lakers?
Oh. The team that won the championship 2 years ago, the team that has LeBron and AD.
I can't believe it.
Well, okay, yeah. But, listen, I think Brooklyn, ever since they traded for James Harden, are the best team in the NBA. They just haven't been healthy. And so it's not just the Brooklyn should come out of the East. Brooklyn should lift up the Larry O'Brien trophy next June. As for the Lakers, I think the biggest question mark is not fit, but time to get the fit right. And they're going to be in a rush process. So the two teams I look to beyond the Lakers in the West are Utah and the Suns. Like, the Suns were in the NBA Finals up 2-0 on the Bucks. Right. Game 5 was a couple plays away from winning that one. If they go up 3-2, they're probably NBA champs. I don't, of course, you say that they beat the Lakers when AD was hurt, and they beat the Nuggets without Murray, and they beat the Clippers without Kawhi, but they played a fully healthy Bucks team and played them neck and neck.
So he was called, all right, #washed, and LeBron James says, #superwashed. But we know what happened after he started tweeting about #superwashed last time, Dave.
Yeah, he won the NBA championship.
Yeah, there you go.
2020 in the bubble, and we were there to cover it. Listen, you don't want to count out LeBron. Now, I think you could say that 2 of the last 3 seasons, he's had a major injury. And the year he won the championship, he had a 4.5-month hiatus to get his body right. And so that has to be part of your thinking as you consider him in year 19 and 37 years old. At the same time, perhaps if Tim had worked a little bit more on his phone, and listen, great job with the survey.
Is it
Tim,
possible that
Tim
could happen?
is always
on that phone.
He talked to 10 people around the league. I think if you talk to some more, there's going to be someone who picks LeBron James as the best player in the league.
Fair.
LeBron's awesome. Nobody is discounting that. The issue for me is that Lakers roster on the whole is pretty old. And we're not used to seeing that many key pieces have to stay healthy for that long and then get in the playoffs and play it the way we know they're capable. So that's what scares me. But on the whole, The West, there is just nobody that I feel sure on. I feel really sure on Brooklyn if they're healthy. I still think Philly might scare some people if they can stay healthy, but
Milwaukee too.
Milwaukee
Absolutely.
too, especially with the momentum that they created in the finals. But the West, for the first time in years, does not have that team as we sit here right now that I go, yes, I know for sure they'll be there.
Well, and if the Lakers do end up being the team that does win a championship, they will be the oldest median age of teams to do so. There have been 5 teams in the NBA who have won with a median age of over 31. The Lakers is closer to 32. So I'm not saying we'll get into this more a little bit later in the show. I know Russell Westbrook had some things to say about it, but if they are able to do this, there is only a small amount of precedent for this age group being able to win it all. But coming up, we're going to run it back with the top plays from NBA Summer League, and then we'll bring in Mark